Before there was the ID, the ego, and the superego, before the structural model that most people associate with Freud's name, there was an earlier and equally important map of the mind. Freud called it the topographical model, and it divided mental life not into agencies with competing goals but into regions defined by their relationship to consciousness. 3 regions: the unconscious, the preconscious, and the conscious. This model, developed most fully in the interpretation of dreams, was Freud's first systematic attempt to explain how the mind was organized, and it shaped his entire clinical practice for the first 2 decades of his career. The starting point was Freud's clinical observation, first in his work with hysterical patients, then in his analysis of dreams, that not all mental content was equally accessible to awareness. Some thoughts, memories, feelings, and wishes were readily available to conscious reflection. Others could be brought to mind with some effort. They weren't immediately present, but they could be recalled if attended to. And others seemed completely inaccessible. They had no presence in awareness, yet their influence on behavior and symptom formation was undeniable. These 3 categories corresponded, in Freud's model, to the conscious, the preconscious, and the unconscious. The conscious system is the smallest and most familiar. It contains what we are aware of at any given moment. This is the system of current attention, current thought, current perception. Its contents are constantly changing. Most of what we perceive or think about passes through consciousness briefly and then fades from current attention. The conscious is, in Freud's framework, more like a spotlight than a room. It illuminates what it falls on, while the vast majority of mental content exists in relative darkness. The preconscious is the system of what is not currently conscious but could easily become so. Your mother's phone number, the lyrics to a song you haven't thought about in years, the details of last Tuesday's lunch, none of these are currently in consciousness, but they are retrievable with normal effort of recall. The preconscious holds the enormous store of memories, associations, learned knowledge, and half-processed experience that the conscious mind can access without unusual difficulty. Material can move freely between preconscious and conscious under ordinary conditions. The unconscious is the system of what cannot become conscious under normal circumstances. It contains repressed memories, forbidden wishes, unacceptable impulses, and experiences that were too threatening to be integrated into conscious awareness. What distinguishes the unconscious from the preconscious is not just that its contents are currently outside awareness, it's that they are actively prevented from becoming conscious by what Freud called the censorship, a function that monitors the boundary between the 2 systems and blocks the passage of material deemed threatening. This censorship is not a literal structure but a metaphor for the regulatory process that Freud observed. Material in the unconscious does not simply sit inert. It is under constant pressure to move toward consciousness. It is, as Freud put it, pressing forward. The censorship works to prevent this, keeping repressed material from becoming directly conscious. But the pressure cannot be maintained perfectly and indefinitely. Material breaks through in disguised forms, in dreams, where the censorship is reduced but not eliminated, in slips of the tongue, in symptoms, in certain forms of creative expression. Freud later replaced the topographical model with the structural model of ID, ego, and superego, largely because he recognized that the repression process itself operated unconsciously, meaning that the ego, which was supposed to be the conscious preconscious system, had unconscious aspects as well. The clean topographical map had become insufficient for the complexity of what he was observing. But the topographical model's central insight, that there are mental contents that operate outside awareness and actively shape behavior from a position of inaccessibility, remains one of the most important and durable insights in the history of psychology. Subscribe to Psychology. Theories explained for more psychology breakdowns every week.